Hi, I'm Clever Ghoul, but you can call me Nikki. Welcome back to the channel. Now I know I look a little bit different today, and that's because this week we were talking about the one and only Miss Cowboy Carter, Miss Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. I got to see her on night 4 of her LA shows this past Wednesday, and let me tell you, it was incredible. If you've been debating going, go. I don't know how she always manages to one-up herself, but she does. Anyway, since it's Cowboy Carter week, that means I'm finally showing y'all the process of making my outfit for this concert. So I've had this vision for quite a while, and I knew I wanted to execute it for this concert, but it was gonna take a lot of time, and it did. It took me about 2 months total, which means about 4 to 6 weeks of sourcing all of the materials for the dress. And then it took another 2 to 3 to put everything together, which is why the last couple of videos have been every 2 weeks or so, just because I was doing this and other projects at the same time, and it just was getting to be way too much. I'm a little rusty with my sewing, so it wasn't the most perfect dress in the world, but honestly, as I was told by some Beehive members at the show, I ate down, I devoured. So with that being said, let's get into it. This was a real labor of love. I wanted to make a belt dress. The very first part of this process was me sketching it out because I'd had this living in my head for so long. Originally and ideally, I would have loved if this was a strapless dress because I just think it would look really cool and make the illusion of this just being a dress made out of belts. But I don't really have the time, money, or skill. And more importantly, with the weight of all the belts and me jumping around dancing and gravity, this very quickly would have been something that landed on the floor had I not had straps on top. Now, I wanted a lot of belts on this dress, but again, I just kept thinking about the weight, and I wanted to help kind of offset that issue by making a little bit of an illusion in the background and taking some faux leather fabric, cutting it into strips, and appliquing it around the base of the dress so that when all the belts are on top of it, it looks like there's more belts underneath. So first I wanted to source a dress, and I knew I wanted to get it secondhand. In fact, I wanted to get as many things secondhand as possible, which didn't really work out, and I'll get into that in a moment. I found this dress on ThredUp, a black stretch denim dress with straps, and because I had a coupon, it was only around $4. I also sourced some belts from ThredUp as well. I also was going to estate sales and thrift stores anytime I could looking for belts. I did bring some home from estate sales. They were around $1 each. However, I thought I checked them well when I was at the sale looking at them, but when I went to bend these belts, they all quickly crumbled and showed signs of dry rot. Dry rot is something that affects leather and pleather. And not only that, if you bring it into your home, it will spread to your other real leather and fake leather items and ruin everything. So unfortunately, one of the belts from ThredUp and about 4 different ones that I got at estate sales had to be thrown out because I was not risking other pieces in my home getting dry rot, but also it would eventually eat away at the other belts or even those faux leather strips on the belt over time. I do feel bad about the waste, but there's really nothing that can be done to save that item, so it is what it is. I also ended up purchasing some faux leather straps, and I went onto tandy.com and got a bunch of belt buckles so that I could make some of my own belts as well. Eventually, I did have to buy some belts new, but I'm not really mad about it because one, I needed belts, and I knew I would be able to wear them again because of the way I'm making this dress. I actually already wore a few of them before I even finished making the dress, so it's worked out. The most important piece of this belt dress, though, was acquiring a belt buckle from Etsy with Beyonce's face on it. And yes, such a thing exists. In fact, I'm going to link the store below. It's from a seller called A Brooklyn Story. Fantastic options there too if you want to look for other things for Cowboy Carter. I would highly suggest. But another side note here is that this was offered in silver or brass. For those of you who may not know, Renaissance, Beyonce's last tour, we needed silver. And I just had a gut feeling that it was going to be gold on this tour. And now I can say, having been, I was correct. That is the way to go. So I chose this in a brass tone, and I'm really glad that I did. I need to think about if I can sit down in this dress, if I can drive in this dress, if I can go to the bathroom easily in this dress, if I can dance easily in this dress. I needed to consider the weight of the belts. I needed to consider how to attach them. Again, I wanted them to be reusable and removable, so I had to consider that because I did not want really obvious belt loops on there. I wanted it to look like an illusion. So when I was walking around Joann and I found some clear bra straps, it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I knew that that would be what I used to add belt loops onto the dress. So first I started by pinning the little straps and things I had already just to see if I even liked this idea or if I was gonna have to scrap it and just buy something. And thankfully I did, and I saw that I could make this work. So from there I had to start doing really the most difficult part of this project, which was taking that stretch faux leather, cutting it into strips to make the belt illusions on the base, and appliquing it onto that base of stretch denim. Once I got the right string, the right needle, the right stitch going, and I had practiced a few times, it still took forever. I would sew a little bit bit of the strip on, and then I would stop, put the dress on just to see that everything was staying on there and not moving, and then I would continue. And I did that for each strip on this dress. I was really happy with them once they were finished. They are not perfect, but did they stay on, and are they hidden by the belts and you still get that little illusion bit? Yes. So that's all that matters. From there, I made 4 belts using the faux leather strips that I had. I would take a belt buckle and put the strap next to it, cut a little center piece out, then put E6000 on that fabric, put it back on the buckle, loop it around, wrap it with a rubber band or a clamp, and let it sit overnight so that it fully adhered. The next day I would remove that, run it under the sewing machine, and make it look like more of a real belt. And I also punched holes in them later to make them look and function like real belts. Once all that was done, I put the dress back on and I slowly started to put all of the belts on and figure out the layout in which I wanted them to go. I would measure the belt, add about 1/4 of an inch to that, and cut out the bra strap, pin it down onto the dress where I needed it to go, and then run it through the sewing machine. Once the belt loops were on, I would test that belt, make sure everything was working, and then I would move on to the next belt loop for the next set of belts. If there were 2 lightweight belts on top of each other, I just let them share a belt loop. And as we went further and further up the dress, not every belt needed a belt loop, so that was really a saving grace. It was mostly the ones at the bottom because I needed to be able to loosen them up when I sat down to drive or to go to the bathroom, and it worked perfectly. So I'm really thrilled with how it turned out. Once all the belt loops were done, I did go back in and reinforce every single one like there was no tomorrow, because there was no way that I would be dancing, sitting, having fun at this concert and have a belt loop pop or have a belt fall off. I was not about to have that. Speaking of the final look in concerts, it's time for the reveal. Here I am at the concert. I am so impressed with how this turned out. It really looked so good, and I love the whole finished look with the bang earrings, which I do have a tutorial for and I'll link below. The fringe, Orville Peck, outlaw sort of face mask, and of course cowboy boots and this cowboy hat. Again, can I say the beehive is the best? So many fans came up to me and told me they loved my outfit. I was told that I ate down, and the people who were telling me this were also impeccably dressed. So all of this work was worth it. I did go to this concert alone, and I was so in the moment that I forgot to take a lot of footage of the dress, but I did make a friend in one of the lines and he offered to take pictures of me, which was so kind. I did try to get footage when I got home. One, I look a mess. I was exhausted and starving, and there was a burger waiting for me. It's 1 in the morning and I hit slow-mo on the camera. So I'm yapping here, no idea what I'm saying. Not a great angle, not great lighting, but you know what? Past me, you did okay, Ghoul. You tried and you did your best. I can't be too mad at you for that. Of course, Beyonce was amazing.
I'm so happy to be here tonight. I'm happy to see your beautiful faces. Thank y'all for dressing up.
She also has visuals in her show. In one of them, she's a giant cowboy and she was wearing a top made completely out of belts, which of course I couldn't have known about prior to going to this show. So I just want to say, I will never doubt my intuition again because I'm clearly on the same wavelength with Beyonce. That's the delusion talking. I have to inform y'all, I am going to see her in Vegas at the end of the tour. So the real question becomes, do I wear this dress again? Because it is really incredible. Or do I make an entirely new outfit? I really want y'all's input, so just let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!